Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3984. Today's date is 5th of April 2026. It's been almost like a night at 9:50 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Okay, okay. So, question is: do people feel seen and heard after talking to me, or just talked at? Okay, that's a little bit confusing question. It's not confusing, but okay. First of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? Okay, so basically, a couple of days ago, I was kind of like I read a book, How to Win and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It was really amazing book. Highly recommend to you to read this book. I read this book and I wanted to implement the value that book taught me. How do I supposed to do that? I went to ChatGPT, kind of like say I read this book, I wanted to implement the value, suggest me 20 question. So ChatGPT kind of like suggest me almost like a 20 question. This is one of those question. Okay, now regarding about the question says that do do people feel seen and heard after talking to me, or just talked at? Let me simplify this question. The simplified question is that am I being good listener, or I'm just loudspeaker? Oh, actually good question. Okay, so first of all, so basically is this thing na, what exactly is this question is actually talking about? The question actually talking about that na ki usually is this thing when we are try to communicate with people, okay, we are a kind of like a two different person. Okay, like a what exactly good communication means what? Okay, most of people kind of like a think that communication means talk, like you talk, I talk, you talk, I talk. That is called communication, but that is completely wrong. The communication, the main important part of the communication is a listening, and that is the most important part, because if you both are talking, you both are not listening to each other, and when you are both are not listening to each other, that communication is not became communication, that communication became argument, right? Because in the argument you both are not listening to each other, right? So basically this thing, communication means listening to each other. Okay, yeah, and that is utmost really essential. But like, dude, listening is just like, okay, it's a very stupid thing na, like basically it's this thing that na ki, like I am listening. How like a stupid was that? Like basically from understanding point of perspective, in the communication I am listening. Right? Like how stupid was that? It's not stupid. Okay, let me kind of like a clarify something about. Okay, now okay, so basically it's this thing na ki, let's just understand. Okay, where do you supposed to be do this thing, what kind of like a communication, and I'm gonna kind of like give you a couple of advice, or maybe kind of like a scenario. Now I'm not gonna give any kind of like advice, nothing really at all, but whatever the stuff that I understand throughout my life, I try to explain. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you one thing. So if you are fall in love with a girl, okay, yeah, she is a kind of like a girl that you love, that you like, okay, yeah, you approach her, she kind of like a say, and you have started talking, you kind of like a share the number, and you have started talking, okay, yeah. So try to understand when you are try to, like at the beginning when you are fall in love with that particular girl, you are talk, she kind of like a listen, she talk, you kind of like a listen, okay, yeah. That is called communication. At the beginning you are most likely to kind of like a understand another person, and understanding is actually happen when you listen to each other. Okay, so when you talk, you kind of like a both listening to each other, and that is called good communication. And because of that good communication happened, you kind of like a feel really good, you both are kind of like a feel really good, because it's kind of like a feel that na ki throughout entire lifetime we haven't found like a listening, the particular people who kind of like a listening the stuff that I'm talking, those are people are very less, literally very less people are actually exist who is kind of like a listening. Okay. And that is true, and that is what kind of like a thing that na, ki when you are falling in love and another person is kind of like a listening to you, they, because that particular person want to understand you, you also listening to that particular person because you also want to understand that and things and that. So you feel really good, you feel little bit of romanticize and things and that in that particular moment. When you talk with that particular person, there is a kind of like a butterfly flight inside, flight inside your stomach. Okay, yeah. Like you, like it's kind of like a goosebump and feel really good and things and that. Okay, yeah, because you not only feel really good when you are talking to each other, but it also kind of like a new experience, and that's why it kind of like a simply complement that thing. Okay, yeah. But let's talk about the communication. This is a kind of like a really good communication. Okay, yeah. Now let me tell you one thing. When you, this is actually happened when you interest in each other, like you like that girl kind of like a like you, and you both are kind of like a talking to each other. Yeah. So this is what kind of like a things that na ki usually throughout my understanding, good communication is actually happen when you like another person, and when you like another person, you kind of like a try to understand that person, and that communication happen very naturally, right? Yeah. Now let's just take a change the scenario. Now you have your friend. Okay, yeah, like a classmate. Now would you kind of like do the communication like that much well, like as compared to the way that you did kind of like a communication with your girlfriend? Have you ever kind of like do that communication with your friend? No. Why not? Like this is also a person too. Yeah, but like basically is this thing, I like that girl, that's why I communicate. Like I like my friend, but like I don't really love my friend. It just like he is my friend, yeah, that's it. But she is a girl and I love her, like her. So that's why, right? So this is what kind of like a thing. Intention. Okay, yeah. Like basically it's this thing when we try to communicate with a girl or any kind of like a loved one or things and that, we have a kind of like a something is this thing that ki we want something. Okay, yeah. When we try to talk with your girlfriend or things and that, we get something, and what is that we get? A kind of like a feel really good and things are romanticized, or kind of like a feel romantic and things and that. This is what we get. But when we try to talk with your friend, we will gonna talk something regarding about a relevant subject, but after that we might not gonna talk the way that we talk with your girlfriend, that we shouldn't be talk like that. Situation scenario might gonna change. Okay, like I'm gonna tell you a situation scenario, but still is this thing that now you don't really get anything when you talk with your friend. Okay, yeah. But let's change the scenario. Okay, so okay, first of all, you don't really get anything, so that's why the communication doesn't really feel that much kind of like really good. Like basically you call that person, hey buddy, how are you? Hey, I'm fine, dude. Okay, listen, is this thing, I am actually kind of like need a notes of chemistry. Have that? Have you read? Yeah, I have this thing. Could you send me those notes? Yeah, I'm sending those photos to you. Do this thing. Okay, yeah, fine. That's it. So this is what kind of like a sort of normal communication happen with your friend. Okay, if something, okay, like this is kind of like a things. Okay, now let me change the scenario. Okay, yeah. Now you are been relationship for almost like a 5 year. Okay, yeah. Now, and you have your friend. So basically what exactly happened? The particular girl that you like, she's became your friend, and now you are in relationship for 5 year. Okay, this is the kind of like a one person, and your friend is kind of like a simply done schooling, and that particular person kind of like a went to US. Okay, yeah. And today he came to city. Okay, yeah. Just because of kind of like a hangout and things, and you are kind of like a try to meet your friend. Okay, yeah. So let me kind of like a tell you the scenario. Okay, let's just say. So basically this thing, she's your girlfriend, she is with you for almost like a 5 year. Okay, yeah. Now have you ever kind of like a feel that ki you wanted to talk with the girlfriend? Like basically this thing, the way that you communicate earlier when you are falling in love and things and that communication is very strong. Okay, yeah. But after the 5 year, you might talk, you might kind of like feel really good and things like that and that, but the enthusiastic for communication, that is not exist after 5 years. Why? Because after the 5 year, I know her, she know me, everything. There is nothing really need to understand. Okay, yeah. Obviously, within a 5 year, there are so many things happened. It's not really that he don't really knew me or anything at all. Already sex is also happened too. Okay, yeah. So basically, this thing there is nothing really need to know about her, and same as she didn't really nothing really need to know about me, because we've been 5 year and right now we are just like we are in relationship. Yeah, like it's not really that we are hate each other, but we just understand each other. So when we try to communicate with each other, it just became just like very normal and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Now let's just say this friend. Okay, yeah, the one friend that is actually asking notes. Okay, yeah, he went to US and now he kind of like came to India, like just for reunion and things and that, and you are kind of like meeting him, and basically just say you are started calling like, hello buddy, oh hey buddy, listen, you came to the India. Yeah, I came for India for like a reunion party. The monitor kind of like assembly suggest we have a party. Yeah, are you coming na? Yeah, I am coming. Dude, I'm kind of like really excited to meet you, dude. Like how was the US? Like how did you do master? Like I done mastering, yeah, like I done master and I complete my master, and right now I'm kind of like try to figure it out, do some sort of business in India. That's really good, dude. Okay, yeah. Listen, we will catch up. Okay, what are you doing tonight? Tonight means like that day winning. Like, are you free or have you? No, I'm really good. I'm really fine. Like I'm really free. Okay, so would you come to the basketball court? We are kind of like we all our friends are gathered together over there, and we will just kind of like figure it out. Reunion plan we're gonna tomorrow, so we will gonna talk. Yeah, sure. When 7 p.m. I will text the address to you. Yeah, sure. Okay, listen, this is your new number? Yeah, this is my new number. Okay, thanks, dude. Okay, and really kind of like excited to meet you, dude. Yeah, thank you, buddy. So do you understand? So basically this thing in that conversation, your conversation with your friend is a kind of like a much more approachable and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Now this is what it is. A communication is a kind of like a depend on who is that particular person. It also depend on time. Okay, it also depend on kind of like a frequency. It also depend on kind of like a something that key how much bond. It also depend upon interest. Okay, like what we get. Okay, like at the beginning when I fall with that particular girl, I talk with that particular girl is because of that ki I am getting that good feeling of romanticized feeling and that and that. But right now after 5 years I don't really get that feeling because it's very common. I know everything about her, things and that and that. But this particular person, my friend, who kind of after 5 years I'm meeting him, so there are so many things that I wanted to know, things about that, what exactly happen in US and things, what is exactly your plan, what is exactly kind of like the career and things and that and that. So basically this thing, do you understand na? The better sorry, the better communication is actually happen when kind of like a something is this thing when we try to understand each other. Okay, yeah. Okay, when we try to know each other. Okay, yeah. Until we know each other, till then conversation kind of like a feel really good. Then that conversation became happen very naturally. Like you understand each other. So when you understand each other, you kind of like listen that particular person a lot too. Okay, yeah. This is what kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. Now, and basically this is what kind of like a different scenario probably is this thing. You might not do kind of like a really good communication with your parents. Why not? Because your parents are always be with you. Okay, yeah. So basically this thing, when your parents is always be with you, it's a kind of like a thing is that na ki you don't really feel that much really important to kind of like a communicate, or you don't really feel that much kind of like a really essential to talk and things like that. So basically you don't really communicate that much. You just might gonna say, yeah, I'm coming, I'm going, I'm gonna eat dinner and things and that and that. But communication doesn't really happen with your parents, not really that much, very rarely. Okay, yeah. The more time that you spend with that particular person, the less communication will gonna happen with that particular person. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like important thing. when you try to do a good communication with any other kind of like a particular person, the natural good communication, I'm mentioning naturally. Okay, yeah. The another way I'm going to tell you after, but let me tell you, the natural way of good communication is always happen with such a person who is less available on to you. Okay, when there is a less available, then like same example, na dude, like a supply and demand. Okay, yeah, like the supply is kind of like a very less, the demand is too high. So when the demand is too high, you are kind of like a try to talk with that particular person, try to show and things and understand, and then the communication happened really well. Okay, yeah. But supply is too much means that particular person always be with you, kind of like, oh, I understand everything, things and that and that. Then probably demand is kind of like a really low. Same thing happened. Okay, yeah. This is where almost 90% of the people, 99% of the people fall on this category. Fall on this category. Okay, yeah. Now, the question is about, like, I kind of like recently read this book, the How to Win and Influence People. Okay, yeah. If you wanted to succeed, you want to become that 1% of the people. Okay, yeah. Now, how do I supposed to become that 1%? Okay, yeah. So basically, if you wanted to succeed, there are a couple of things. Communication are very much essential for how much success that you get. Okay, yeah. Hard work is essential, yeah. How much hard work that you do is kind of like a depend on how much success that you get. But hard work is not the only one. Network, communication is one of the really essential. Network is also really essential too. Okay, yeah. These are factors that our education system or our surrounding are completely overlooked, and that's why these books are kind of like a very essential for kind of like a growing things and that and that. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you the 1%. If you want it to be succeed, how should you supposed to be kind of like a simply talk and use a communication for getting better success. Okay, yeah. By the way, till now I haven't really had a succeed. Okay, I'm 32. I'm living with my parents. I'm not really earning any money, and I'm kind of like giving you the success mantra to you. How ironic wrong was that? Completely stupid. Okay, don't listen to me. Okay, or maybe I don't know. Like it's an artifact who is kind of like a listening. If you are kind of like a listening till now is because of that, yeah, I became something. Okay, yeah, that's why you are kind of like a listening. Like you will not gonna listen those that shit that I'm talking if I'm not became anything. Obviously, you are kind of like a listening because I became something. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you how do I supposed to kind of like simply use communication for succeed and things and that. Okay. So let me tell you one thing. Communication is a very much essential. It essential as much as important as a hard work. Okay, yeah. And there is a couple of step or there is a couple of kind of like execution that you should supposed to be do it. Okay, how should you supposed to do it? Okay, so let's just say your relationship is one of the really important factor in your life. Okay, who do you married, who do you not, because your partner is a utmost essential, like a basically this thing na, whatever the decision that you do in your life, who do you married is a one of the important, one of the like one of the kind of like important decision in your life, and you shouldn't supposed to take that decision very like a very lightly. Definitely not. Okay, yeah. It kind of like a make you or break you. Okay, so it is very much essential. Okay, so let me tell you one thing. How should you supposed to be do? How should you supposed to be kind of like simply figure it out? Let's just say you met a girl. Okay, you like that particular girl and things and that. You are sharing a number and things and that. Now you are kind of like a try to talk. Okay, so basically is this thing na ki it is really essential that ki even if you think you understand that particular person, you do not understand that particular person. Okay, yeah. Like it's a kind of like a thing that na we do not understand each other. Okay, yeah. Why is that? Because of that ki we never really try to understand. But dude, I like basically is this thing. I know this particular girl since the 5 year I've been in relationship. I know that particular girl. No, you don't know. Okay, let me tell you how should you supposed to do. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna kind of like use a kind of like a modern do it technique. Okay, yeah. How do you supposed to do this thing? Okay, so let's just say you are fall in love, you are started talking and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Let's just say like basically is this thing na ki somehow in the future you will gonna married with that particular woman, married with that particular girl. Okay, probably, like probably not sure but probably. Okay, yeah. So basically is this saying how should you supposed to make a spark alive in between you and her? How should you supposed to do that? Ask question to each other. That is a very much essential. Ask question to each other. Okay, I ask so many questions, things and that. What exactly is that? What is that? No, let me tell you one thing. You didn't ask question about her. You actually ask question about kind of like some things around and things and that like what exactly happened with your mother, your father, and things and that and that and that. A kind of like a day-to-day life stuff. That communication is a kind of like a something very like it does not go that much deeper. Like a deep communication happen very like a very like a when you ask a deep question, what should you supposed to do? Okay, yeah. So let's just say is this thing that key like let's just say okay, I'm gonna tell you my scenario. I'm not really sure about what you will gonna do. Okay, yeah. So how do I supposed to do this thing? I'm 32 at the moment. Okay, yeah. When I will fall in with that particular girl, whoever that girl, I'm not really sure when will I, but let's just assume that key in 34 34 was too much. Oh my god. Sometimes I just kind of like somebody thinking about my life choices. Oh my god. 34. I seen this number and I kind of like feel like that. Oh my god, I'm 34. I'm not 34, I'm 32. Oh shit. This number is just like I don't know how to supposed to explain. Oh shit. Okay, I will not gonna talk about this number. Okay, yeah. So let's just say my age is 27. Assume my age is 32, but assume my age is 27. Okay, yeah. And basically it's the same that key I will gonna married with that particular girl after a year. Okay, or things and that and that. So basically it's the saying how do I supposed to take that decision? How do I supposed to kind of like ensure that the girl that I choose or girl that she is with me or is kind of like a very legit person or things and that and that. So basically this is what should you supposed to do is that ki go to the ChatGPT, kind of like say, okay, this is the woman that I like. Next year I will gonna married with that particular girl. Okay, yeah. Try to mention everything regarding about her. Like basically is this thing she's this, she's kind of like a working in kind of like a IT firm. She's a kind of like a somebody do this, she's that, like whatever you have information about her, just dump it out into the chat GPT. Okay, yeah, like do not type, just turn on the mic and just say everything. Okay, yeah. Ki this is kind of like a that and that and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. Then said that ki suggest me at least like a 1,000 question so that I would ask to her. Okay, yeah. And then I would understand that ki she is the one that ki like I will gonna ensure that ki like she is the one that I should supposed to be get married. Okay, like basically marriage is kind of like one of the really essential or important decision in my life. So probably is one of the really essential thing that na ki I wanted to ensure that she is the right person. So suggest me at least like 1,000 question so that I would gonna ask to her so that I will gonna unsure about things and that and that. Put that everything stuff. Okay, yeah. And kind of like a hit the enter. ChatGPT kind of like a suggest you almost like a thousands of question. Okay, yeah. Now same thing that girl should supposed to do this thing. Like basically it's this thing that na okay, like whatever the 1,000 question actually happened, save the 1,000 question in your kind of like a Google Doc or something like in notes or things and that and that. Okay, thousands of question. Same thing happened, same thing girl should supposed to be do. Like basically this thing she will gonna say, I will gonna marry this man after a year, and he is this, he is that, he is that, he is that, he is that, he is that. Suggest me thousands of question so that I would gonna kind of like only make my marriage choices as much like as she will kind of unsure that she will kind of like a things like that. And so she suggests, so ChatGPT kind of like a suggests 1,000 question for her to, and like basically is this thing that ki she will gonna ask 1,000 question to me, I will gonna ask 1,000 question to her. Okay, now let me tell you one thing. 1,000 question is a lot, is a very lot, but that is essential. Okay, let me tell you one thing that ki what should you supposed to do whenever you gonna talk, you will gonna ask question. One question you ask, then she also ask another question. Okay, and basically this thing that ki when you try to do this, like basically just like whatever throughout the day, you might gonna ask each other probably maybe 20 question. You ask 10 question, she asks 10 question. By the way, it depends on some of the question kind of like assembly end very quickly, but some question are kind of like explain, need a kind of like a lot of explanation and things and that. Some are very deep, some are things like ChatGPT kind of like suggests thousands of question in every category regarding about the everything that and that, so many stuff. Okay, so basically is this thing na ki when you talk with that particular person and they you talk, so basically is this thing in a day you cover 20 question. Okay, and within a 20 question you talk with her, you understand that particular person a little bit better. Okay, so basically is this thing, if you kind of like assembly, it will gonna take you almost like a year or 2 year or year and a half to kind of like a complete 2,000 question. Yeah, 2,000 question, because you are also asking, she is also asking, because 2,000 question. Okay, yeah. So you will gonna ensure that she is a kind of like a right person, like basically when you ask the question and things and things. So this is the way, this is a kind of like a simply way that you could kind of like a simply ensure that she is a kind of like a right person and things and that. But dude, basically is this thing na, is this like how is kind of like a simply like what kind of like a part is associated with the communication? Like you are kind of like suggesting us asking question. Like let me tell you one thing now, communication is kind of like something happen when you have interest about that particular person, and most of the time interest was gone at some certain point, like there is no some there is nothing really need to talk. Okay, yeah, but when you have this kind of like a thousands of question, you have something to talk, and that is kind of like a somebody add something kind of like when you, it's a kind of like a somebody layer by layer, you kind of like a somebody understanding that particular person, and that is kind of like a somebody existing, you not only communicate but it also kind of like understand each other much more better, much more vividly, much more nicely, much more, I don't know how I'm supposed to explain. I haven't really experienced this thing, I haven't really done that, but still this is the kind of like a stuff that I would gonna do regarding about choosing the right partner and things and that. Okay, yeah, and this is the way that I should supposed to be communicate much more better. Now regarding about that, the communication is this thing na ki it not only just a kind of like a talk. Okay, but like basically the structure that I try to tell you is this thing that ki you not only have to be kind of like a just a talk, you will kind of like a listen to. So basically when you try to follow this structure, you will gonna do really better communication with her. Okay, yeah, and in the end you will kind of like understand she's the right person or not and things and that, and then you understand, then you will understand that she's the right or not. If she's not, then obviously you have to move on or break up or whatever it is. It's a kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. Now at some time now what exactly happened, other person might gonna kind of like a see that ki why do I supposed to be asked these thousands of question. Okay, because it doesn't really make essential. Wait, now I just have to kind of like go to the number 2. Let me pause here for a while. Oh boy, right now I'm feeling really good. Okay. All right, so okay, why what sorry, I was kind of like somebody like what is that happen now, I just exhaust everything out of my body, and I'm kind of like a feel almost like a do like light. Okay, yeah, lighter, feel really good, and that is what exactly light. Yeah, like basically this thing. Let me kind of like give you fact. Okay, yeah. Usually when we exhaust, okay, yeah, exhaust means like that, like a number to do shit things and that. Okay, yeah. So basically this thing, you never know how much you get out that thing, like the weight of that stuff that you like take out. Okay. like like have you ever kind of like a measure how much you averagely like a let out that stool? It would be almost like a 700 to 1 kg probably. Yeah, literally 700 to 1 kg of kind of like a things that you exhaust from your body averagely. Sometime it kind of like a get lesser, sometime it get more, depends upon how much that you eat and things and that. This is very very gross, by the way. Like, who is kind of like a measuring how much should I supposed to be exhaust? But I just kind of like Google it, and they kind of like say, it's a averagely some like sometimes it depends on who you are, what kind of like eat and things, what is your age and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. If you are at the prime age, you are probably kind of like exhausting almost like a 700 gram to 1 kilo probably. I think I'm not really sure about that thing. Okay, like basically, if you do not believe in my entire information, just do your Google thing, do your research and things and that. Okay, yeah. So where was I? I was actually talking about thousands of question. Okay, so there is a kind of like a problem will gonna came. Okay, so basically, is this thing? Thousands of question is a lot of question. Okay, there is a lot of question, by the way. Okay, and sometimes what is actually happened na ki it kind of like a feel like stupid. It kind of like a feel like stupid that why do I supposed to do this thing. And this actually happened at the beginning. Okay, at the beginning it kind of like a feel like stupid, that kind of like a somebody that I'm actually asking this question by this, that it just feels like stupid. I think that is true, yeah, but that is not stupid. Okay, yeah. Like basically you might think that is a stupid, or maybe your partner might gonna think that is a stupid thing, stupid idea and things and that, but that is not stupid. Just believe at the beginning it might get uncomfortable, because ChatGPT kind of like a suggests you such a question that kind of like a somebody very deep, like something that you don't want to discuss. Like example is this thing, your ex-girlfriend or your ex-boyfriend and things and that, right? But this is what kind of like a things that is somewhat something. Do not skip, or do not kind of like a things. Accept that ki you are not right, you are also wrong too, you are also spoiled too, you did some sort of mistakes too. Okay, yeah. And when you decided that you will gonna marry that particular girl or particular boy or particular woman or man, it is very essential that ki you know that particular person from every layer. Okay, so basically is this thing now, be just kind of like simply like let your guard down and let kind of like express everything, what is actually question and things and that. Because at the beginning it might sound stupid, but if you keep try this thing, it will gonna add a really good value in your communication. You might feel really good, you might feel that ki, oh, like a kind of like a deep communication actually happened. Okay, yeah. You just kind of like went somewhere, you are kind of like sitting on a Domino's. Okay, you don't really order anything, you are kind of like sitting there for almost like half an hour. You completely forget that you are kind of like or you have to order a pizza and things like that, and you are kind of like asking question to this. It build very strong bond between you and her. Okay, now question is that he, okay, I will ask her 1,000 question, she asked me 1,000 question. It took me almost like a 1 year or 1.5 years to kind of a complete almost like a 2,000 question. Okay, yeah. After I complete this 2,000 question, I realized that ki she is the one. Okay, yeah. And she's also realized that I am the one. Okay, yeah. Now we get married. Okay, now what? After what? Okay, yeah. Now this is kind of like a thing, most of people kind of like a thing is that na ki now what? Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing na, when you throw a stone in the surface of water, it creates the ripple effect. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened. Dude, if you ask thousands of questions is too much. Like start counting from 1 to 1,000, you realize how big number was that. So thousands of questions is too much, literally too much. Okay, yeah. And if you done this thing before the wedding, literally it unlocks so many layers of you and her. so many layer, like basically not just kind of like a talking about, like you will gonna talk about such a thing that just beyond, like basically is this, what is that is this thing, the way that you're gonna match with her, the way that you resonate with her and she resonate with you so much that literally is this thing like you can do, like basically is this thing like, without you asking and like without you kind of like telling, you know each other, literally know each other. And this is what actually happened. Okay, so after you get married, obviously is this thing that ki because you ask 2000 questions to each other, literally you also think that ki nahi, I like basically there is a bond between you so strong that you will gonna ask again such a question. Literally you will gonna do the research by yourself and you will gonna decide that ki, okay, after I kind of like a married, suggest me again thousands of questions so that I will ask to my husband, and same thing that you will gonna do, because the it will gonna build connection even more stronger. Obviously there are so many things will gonna happen to after you get married. There are so many responsibilities and things, and that you might not have a kind of like a time to talk and things and that, but still you might get something to time. Okay, something time. You will not gonna talk about how is your kids and how is the your kind of like assembly that key in-laws and things and that, and you might talk about each other a kind of like just 10 minutes that you have asked. In that 10 minutes just talk with her, okay, yeah, things and that it builds a strong connection. And that is what kind of like simply power of communication. When you try to do a communicate with each other, you understand, like basically is this thing, dude, I just can't tell you, okay, yeah, how much you kind of like became like, okay, let me kind of like tell you, I am doing this artifact, I'm asking this question to myself from last 11 year. Okay, yeah, and I'm actually asking this question to myself and I do understand myself much more better. Okay, but still is this thing na ki I am also understanding myself. Okay, but what if is this thing that ki I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing. When you do this, when you interact, when you ask these thousands of questions, you became like you became one, dude. You literally you became one. Yeah, and basically you when you became one, you can do so many things together. Like basically is this thing now, when you wanted to establish a business or things and that, she will gonna understand, she will gonna help you, she will gonna kind of like assembly with you in a such a moment of life that ki nobody will gonna with you, she's with you because she's asked that thousands of 2000 questions with you and things and that. It is that bigger thing, and that is a kind of like a somebody value that add by the communication when you do that communication things and that, because question by question, layer by layer, you understand that particular person. Okay, so this is the communication will kind of like add value in relationship. What about the career? Okay, so should I kind of like do ChatGPT every single time when I meet somebody? Okay, now like relationship point is cover up. Now let's talk about the career. Okay, now in the career, how should you supposed to do this thing? How should you supposed to be utilize that communication so that it will gonna add value in you, it will gonna kind of like add success in your life and things and that. How should you do that? Now it depends upon who are you and what exactly that you want. Okay, this is very essential. Okay, yeah, let me tell you one thing. You are a kind of like a, let's just say, imagine you are a kind of like a somebody, let's just say producer. Okay, yeah, and you wanted to produce your film, but you don't really have that many fund, and you wanted to kind of like a somebody, you have a story. Okay, yeah, your director have a story, and that story is kind of like a really like a, you think that that story will gonna sell. Okay, yeah, and you need a kind of like a money, and you need a kind of like a big production house or things that they would kind of like a fund and things and that. But is this thing that na ki your goal is to become a kind of like a film producer. This is a kind of like a goal that you have. Now in this line of work, what exactly matter? Hard work, communication, network is really matter. Okay, network is actually built by the communication too. Okay, yeah. So how should you supposed to do this thing? How should you supposed to do that? Whoever the person that you will gonna interact, hi, hello, how are you, things that and that. Okay, yeah. And basically is this thing na ki when you try to communicate, like let's just, I'm kind of like using, like let me tell you one thing na. Okay, right now I'm kind of like telling us such a way that probably it might sound wrong. It sound wrong, but that is somewhat something essential. Okay, when you are hang out with your friends and things and that, obviously is this thing, try to understand, try to listen. Okay, yeah. When you have a point, you kind of like express and things and that. Okay, yeah. This is the kind of like assembly, the way that you interact with your friends. Because with your friend, what should you supposed to be expect? Happiness. Obviously you are getting that thing, right? Okay. But in the career, things are really different, because in the career, it's a ladder. Okay, yeah. And it is really essential that key ladder is really essential, that depend upon how good is your communication, and communication depend upon how good is your research, how well you know another person. Let's just say is this thing, you have a meeting with a kind of like a, let's just say Viacom director, okay, or Viacom film producer. Like basically there is a distributor who is a Viacom distributor. What's the Viacom? Viacom is a kind of like a simply distribution company who is kind of like distributing movies and things and that. They have a lot of amount of money, and they also run their own production house too. So you are kind of like a try to talk with that producer named XYZ. Okay, yeah. So basically you are meeting that particular person. Okay, now you're not meeting that particular person, you are kind of like somebody attending a party where that producer is actually come in that party too. So you have to do your technique, na? You have to do the research. You have to figure it out that what is at least, what is that and that, and try to make sure figure it out a way that should supposed to talk. Okay, like basically this is it is really essential that when you try to in this line of career, you have to kind of like simply your word of mouth. You have to be kind of like a really good at communicator. Like say, hello, hi, hi, hello, sir, I am the producer. I kind of like things. Yeah, sir, the way that like, okay, let me tell you one thing. How should you supposed to be hold the attention of somebody? Okay, yeah, by doing a kind of like somebody doing affirmation word or kind of like a compassion to them. Okay, let's just say this Viacom producer, XYZ Viacom producer, kind of like I said, hello, sir. Sir, the movie that you make last year was really amazing, really good. It's just moved my body. Just I never really kind of like realized that how amazing work was that. It just kind of like really great. And that particular say, oh, you really watched that movie? I really love that. It's really great. It's not really that you genuinely watched that movie. It's not really that, but kind of like I said this thing. Oh yeah, that's really good. Sir, it's just like that na ki I was also kind of like a try to make a kind of like a movie which is kind of like a somewhat something resonate like the movie that you wanted to make. Oh yeah. And it just kind of like a feel really good to have. Like do not try to kind of like a barge that ki you want money and things. No, don't. Just kind of like present yourself. Just to present that ki I love things and that. Just have a compassion. Have a things. Have a kind of like a just a kind of like a reference. Like let's just kind of like that particular person knows you at the beginning. Okay, this is what it is. Do not ask money at the moment. Just don't. Okay, so this is the kind of like a things. This is the kind of like a first interaction. Just kind of like a show him that ki you are kind of like exist, and this is exist is actually because of that ki you are kind of like compassion. Now another thing is that na ki you do something differently. Now second interaction is actually happened by kind of like by the third person. Now third person is what? Third person means like that ki try to figure it out that ki maybe is this thing that na ki a kind of like a third person will kind of like say this particular boy who is a kind of like wanted to become producer, and he kind of like build a kind of like a really good TV series and things and that by third. Okay, third way of mouth. Like you will kind of figure it out who is that particular person and things and that. Okay, to that XYZ Viacom producer. Okay, yeah. And then that particular third world person says, then that particular person kind of like arrange the meeting to you, and then you talk. This is the kind of like obviously you might gonna feel at the beginning, okay, but just try to do this thing. Just keep doing it that. Okay, just build the kind of like a communication, build understanding the way that you talk and things and that. It is somewhat something really essential. Now, when you do this thing, when you build the network, communication is really essential. How should you supposed to be use your words and affirmation words and things and that. Okay, yeah. Let that other person talk to, or kind of like a things. Okay, that's why you kind of like build the ladder, build the kind of like a career. Okay, yeah. Another thing. Okay. The communication kind of like a stuff that I try to tell you is a kind of like a way much different according to you, who you are, what kind of like a person that you want, and what kind of like a goal that you have and things and that. Okay, yeah. Like basically this thing, if you are a kind of like a chowkidar and your job is a kind of like a, just to be kind of like a doing a chowkidari, obviously is this thing, this lesson might not gonna important to you. Okay, yeah. But if you are Stockidar and still kind of like listening this thing, that means you are kind of considering that you will gonna utilize that kind of like a lesson and things and that and that. So definitely it is kind of like it's kind of like a determine who will gonna utilize, because if the particular person who's kind of like a stick with till now and kind of like listening this stuff is because of he will gonna kind of like utilize that value and stuff like that. Right now I don't really have any kind of like stuff how should you supposed to be execute. But if you just do this thing, okay, yeah, do just communication, like listen, just listen. Okay, probably this is the kind of like one of the really essential when you wanted to build any kind of like a communication. Listening is one of the really important factor. Just listen the first. Communication happen automatically. Okay. I'm really tired to talk right now. Okay, yeah. Also, is this thing record the artifact? Like basically, artifact would be kind of like a really good. Like basically, is this thing it changed me. Okay, the stuff that I'm trying to telling you all those shit is because of the like basically this thing right now you are not believing me and things like I'm really fucked person. Like till 32 I'm living with my parents and not earning any money. Like I know how shameful was that, and you kind of like consider me I'm pathetic. I am pathetic, that is true. But still, is this thing now? If you wanted to build the ladder of your career, dude, record artifact. Just it will gonna definitely add value. So much gonna add value. I'm really genuinely kind of like saying this thing. All right, so these are right now I'm really tired. Thank you.